Hey guys, welcome to Book Review 161. Today I'm going to be reviewing To Live or Perish Forever, Two Tumultuous Years in Pakistan by Nicholas Schmidle. So Nicholas got a grant to go live in Pakistan for 2 years, as the title mentioned. And his only real requirements were that he learn Urdu and give sort of a comprehensive analysis at the end of his time there. This allowed him plenty of free time, in which case he traveled all around Pakistan and wrote this book. So, this is a very political book in the sense that it covers kind of the hot button issues of the moment in Pakistan. Kind of at the end, there were a few instances of more the cultural side of it, but I mean, it's kind of hard to say because culture and politics is really very intertwined in Pakistan, and you see that in this book too, but very rarely do you see instances of, in this book, of purely just kind of spontaneous moments or things that don't have to do with, say, like the larger war on terror or internal politics within Pakistan. That is something that Nicholas mentions quite often, is that often the players involved externally, primarily the United States, but also some other states, are kind of only in care about the Taliban or various groups that kind of are on the splashy head page lines with terrorism in terms of attacking, potentially attacking the United States, or maybe like connections to 9/11. But what he mentions really is that a lot of these groups come to power by the instability within Pakistan, and there are potentially other groups that, while not terrorist groups, could definitely destabilize the region and really create a lot of problems. So let's talk a little bit about these groups, but first I want to talk a little bit about the history. Pakistan was established in, I believe, 1949, though I could be wrong about that, as a Muslim state. Specifically, that was the point of separation from India, was to create a Muslim state. The Mujahideens, which were the ones that moved from India to Pakistan, there was a lot of hardship involved in all of those people moving over. But essentially, the idea when the state was established was that it's based on an Islamic founding, but there would be no sort of regionalism or tribalism within Pakistan, which was sort of idealistic at the time period, but really not realistic to the kind of facts on the ground and what has evolved in Pakistan since then. There's been a number of, and that was Jinnah that established the country. There's been a number of elected officials as well as dictatorships that have ruled Pakistan since then. At the time of this writing, Pakistan was under a democracy, but with threats to undermine that democracy, as well as sort of like an authoritarian state. So ultimately, kind of the book ends, I guess we'll start there, with, I forget what his name is, President Musharraf, yeah. President Musharraf stepping down from power after 8 years of being the president. He actually took power in a coup, but then sort of put the cloak on of being democratically nominated, and I think was actually elected once, like after he had the coup, he was elected as president. So he does have some legitimacy there, but essentially was term limited and was about ready to come out of power. But nobody in the country, Musharraf's popularity was really on the decline, but because Pakistan was such a wily state, there were all these regions that were creating problems. So I already mentioned, he starts the book in Karachi. I already mentioned the Muhajirs, which were the people that moved from Pakistan. And really in Karachi, And that's the main area that the Muhajirs moved into, was Karachi and the Sindhi region. Um, so the people that really the Mujahideens came into conflict, and really it's represented by two political parties, is the Sindhis and there was another group that was in that area, but I can't remember what their name is. But they're sort of the locals. So you have this giant city of Pakistan that blew up from all these people immigrating there. And then you had what was essentially a minority in their largest city in the state, were the Sindhis. The Sindhis being represented by the PPP, the Benazir Bhutto wing of the PPP, and the Mujahideens were represented by the MQM, who both those stand for something, but I can't exactly remember what. And so Karachi's kind of a big, giant mess of a state, right, or a city right now. It's like there's a lot of illegal settlements, and what did he all do there? He saw kind of this, kind of shady people. He would do this multiple times all over the country. Moving on, we had Baluchistan, which was the sparsely populated western region of Pakistan its capital is Quetta, and its people also don't like Musharraf, and they see themselves as sort of a separate ethnicity from the rest of the people in Pakistan. Most of the people in Pakistan have some sort of Indian or Aryan root, where who moved there quite a long time ago, except for the Mujahirs who moved there recently, but they're still of Indian blood. But the Balkuts, I think, are actually Kurdish by blood, and much like the Kurds, they don't have their own homeland. Another interesting point was that this was a separate princely state during the British Raj period, and the British Raj actually suggested that a separate state be set up, and a separate state was, for a very short time period, set up. But within, I think, like 2 years of Pakistan being established, Balkukistan, I'm really messing that up, was sort of by, if not by force, by coercion, integrated into the Pakistani state. Now, there's two areas that he visited. Well, he actually visited a whole bunch within Balkuki. He visited a cleric in Dura. Sorry for the helicopter, you guys. In Dera Bakuti. Okay, so I'm gonna pause it for a second.